We are on the road to Backlash 2002, and tonight we are covering the 2002 WWE Draft, which took place on the March 25th, 2002 edition of Monday Night Raw. That is the show that we are reviewing right now. Tro, how you doing?
I'm very nervous. I don't know if I'm going to be drafted. Hopefully, it's first overall.
So we'll get to the show right now here. Linda McMahon. Oh, so the show goes on the air, and Linda McMahon welcomes us to the first ever draft. And they cut to the locker room. They're all looking on. Linda says, in the interest of time, only 20 picks will be made live. A lottery will be held immediately after Raw to determine the placement of the rest of the roster, with the draft results going into effect, next week on Raw. And due to the triple threat main event, which is for the undisputed title, Triple H, Chris Jericho, nor Stephanie McMahon will be eligible for tonight's draft. And due to a contractual clause, truthfully, a behind the scenes issue, Stone
I'm
Cold
walking
Steve
out, motherfucker.
Stone Cold Steve Austin is not eligible, and he is a free agent.
Yeah.
Linda McMahon, go ahead.
So, kind of spoiler alert. We haven't seen Austin at all during this
Obviously,
during this road to yet. All right.
right.
So then I guess the I guess the go home show for WrestleMania would have been the last time that Austin was
Yeah,
on Raw during that third Thorn in the Eye period,
yeah.
because he doesn't show up again
Until that whole
the
free agent deal, the whole
yeah, until
sign.
like maybe 2 weeks from now or something.
Yeah. By the way, our last two road twos have had a lot of scenes that were used in SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, and
Yep.
this whole show, obviously. I mean, you're the first thing you do on Shut Your Mouth is you literally play the draft. So
It's the prelude.
this segment where we are going over is literally how your the Shut Your Mouth story mode begins, without the cut to like the locker room, obviously. Um, but Stone Cold Steve Austin making his decision on where to go is literally used in the story mode.
Yeah.
Um, and every time Mr. McMahon or Ric Flair walks to the podium, that you see that in the story mode. The obviously difference is at some points during this show, picks are made backstage. You don't see that
Yeah.
in the draft on Shut Your Mouth. And obviously, there are some points where both Mr. McMahon and Ric Flair are at the podium at the same time. You don't see that in the Shut Your Mouth
Yep.
story mode either. But yeah, our last two road twos, and this was not even like done on purpose, but our last two road twos have a lot of stuff that gets used in the Shut Your Mouth story mode.
Yep.
So after announcing that Stone Cold is a free agent, he is not eligible for the draft, Linda thanks every member of the roster for their time and wishes them good luck. This is just, a decent segment here to start off the
Good
show.
luck in your future endeavors. You're all fired.
So what do you think of starting the show off with this quick little explanation of everything going on tonight?
Linda's better when she's a zombie.
So let's see. Right after that, we head straight into a match. Taz taking on Mr. Perfect. Yeah, kicking off the show with a match here, but that's okay. There's a lot of segments throughout this show, so I'm not mad. Miss Perfect grabs the mic and says tonight they are going to see a perfect example
Now,
of the. Go ahead.
did you ever think that you'd be reviewing a Mr. Perfect match in 2002?
Yeah, because he did wrestle a few times in '02 on Raw, and obviously Raw
I mean,
Rumble.
he had a fine run, but it was kind of crazy to see him like this.
I know it is, but Miss Perfect says he is the perfect example or he's going to show everybody the perfect example of the perfect pick. And in the end, this was a quick match. Taz won with the Taz mission. After that, after Perfect taps out, he gets out of the ring, stands on the outside, and watches as Taz grabs a mic
Taz.
and tells Mr. Perfect that the perfect pick just became just another victim. Not much to say about this match. I give it 1 star. It wasn't really that great.
One
And
Star
it was
Jones
quick.
over here.
It was a quick match too. But your thoughts on Taz versus Mr. Perfect?
They had to have just picked like the most random ass names they've ever had to get this match.
Yeah. um. Okay, we got Ric Flair's War Room, and Arn Anderson is on the phone.
He's
He
got a
says,
gun.
he says, yeah, okay, and he hangs up the phone. And Ric Flair's asks, what did he say? And Arn Anderson just says, Arn Anderson just totally no souls that too. He doesn't even tell him, and we never know who he's on the phone with. But he says Vince has the first pick, so we better have an A and B plan, an A plan and a B plan. Flair says we have an A B C D plan, and if he's learned anything about Mr. McMahon, it's to expect the unexpected. And he says McMahon doesn't realize that Arn Anderson and Ric Flair have their game face on, and they're not backing down. So I would say the one problem with this segment would be who's Arn Anderson on the phone with? Like, what was the reason? I get they're trying to create a war room, just like a NFL
he's on
draft.
the
Go ahead.
he's on the phone with Shad Khan.
Yeah.
he's like my son Tony really wants to talk to you. Keep your fucking son away from. No, my son has a lot of great ideas.
So, so yeah, that would be my one little issue about the segment is why is Arn Anderson on the phone? It clearly seems that it's not a big deal, but this, but
He's just like on a random phone call.
yeah, and he just no sells after Flair's like, what did he say? It's like, Vince has a first pick. We better have an A and a B plan. But what did the guy on the phone say?
I don't want to extend. I don't want to extend my car warranty, please.
I do like Flair though. We got our game face on, and we're not going to back down. We have an A, B, C, and D plan. But
But not an E
again,
plan.
yeah, no E plan, no D plan, A, B, C, D, no F plan, no G plan.
No L M and no B plan. Come on.
And and you don't know that maybe Mr. McMahon's going to trade the pick here. You're going to trade the
Yeah.
first overall pick for a couple of maybe some picks in the future draft, 2003 draft,
Yeah.
2004 draft. You never know.
2005 draft, 2007 draft, 2008
Yeah.
draft. Oh my.
So that was an okay segment, but I could have, like the whole on the phone thing just was a little annoying because like it seemed like, it made it seem like it was going to be something and it turned out to be nothing. So now we have Mr. McMahon's War Room. Mr. McMahon is reading the roster off. He's looking, he's got a whole folder. He's got the list of everybody who's, potentially he could draft. And he's banging his pencil on his leg as he's doing this. And then he looks up, shakes his head as to be like, yeah, I got it. I got it. He throws the folder on the table and walks out of the room. And then the camera pans to the folder, and the one thing that's noticeably in the folder is an 8x10 of Kurt Angle. Now remember, I don't even think I actually brought this up because I was talking so much about how entertaining Kurt Angle was trying to be cool when he was on commentary. But one thing he said while he was on commentary was he said he's gonna be taking number one overall. He knows that Vince will take him number one overall. So they're essentially they're going right back to that. They're making you believe now that okay, Kurt Angle's telling the truth here. I like this segment.
Yep.
They got you believing, oh, it's gonna be Kurt Angle here. But now Also, your thoughts on? Did I ask you your thoughts on Perfect versus Taz? I think I did.
Yeah,
Okay, thoughts on Flair's War Room there segment.
I like what they're doing, what they're trying to do, like make it feel like a real draft. But
Mm,
yeah,
yeah. Mr. McMahon's War Room there with the fade at the end to Kurt Angle's
I
8
like
by
I
10.
like how he has a picture of Kurt. Just my favorite wrestler, Kurt.
Not the final time you will see that 8 by 10 tonight, by the way. Now we
Kurt
have
probably gave it to him.
now we have Mr. McMahon coming out, and this is
Oh,
history. This is history right here. WWE, the first ever draft pick in WWE history. Mr. McMahon comes out. He thanks the crowd for that warm Penn State reaction, as though obviously they are booing him. He says, as a result of winning the coin toss, he gets the number one overall pick. And as he's saying all this, the crowd is, what? What?
no, they're kidding. You are an
No, no, no,
asshole.
no, no. That's later. That's later. At this
Uh,
point, they're chanting what? And McMahon announces that he's picked The Rock. And they cut to The Rock, and he looks perplexed. You did that so late. You did
I
that.
didn't know when to do it, honestly. I didn't
So,
want to do it too early.
yeah. Um, so they cut to The Rock, who's backstage in the locker room with everybody, and he looks perplexed. He's like, "What?" And that's when Rock comes out, and Mr. McMahon starts laying the law down like he was trying to do to Hogan on Raw or on SmackDown the last show. McMahon says he has to get a couple things off his chest. He says Rock is the number one pick. That's all well and good, but there will be new rules on SmackDown. First off, the important one, Rock is to never put his hands on Mr. McMahon. He is also never to say that he's going to shove his foot in someone's candy ass. Never again is Rock to use the phrase, it doesn't matter. Because it does matter to Mr.
Yeah,
McMahon. He says Rock and his new friend Hulk Hogan have so much in common. And that is where the asshole chants, but not the one you said yet. The asshole chants start. And McMahon hears this and says, listen, Rock is my number one overall pick. You shouldn't be saying that. If Rock is my first pick, you shouldn't be saying that about my pick here. And that is when McMahon says he made Hogan and Rock, and he says that seeing that this is his last Raw, he hold on. So wait, yeah, McMahon says he made Hogan and Rock, and then he tells Rock he brought him into this world. He can take him out of it. McMahon starts to leave. That was it. McMahon thanks everybody and starts leaving before Rock stops him. And Rock says that seeing that this is his last Raw, last appearance on Raw, he wants to go out with a bang. And then Rock started to list some of his memorable Raw moments, winning the title on Raw, getting Rock and Sock. I think when Rock and Sock won the tag titles, which Jerry Lawler just totally, oh, that was terrible. Yeah, Jerry Lawler just being a great heel there. But he also obviously brought up, and by the way, this was bad on Rock's part because he actually brought up a SmackDown moment, but obviously to the storyline here, he's obviously over out here with McMahon. He brings back up shoving Mr. McMahon's face into Rikishi, but that happened on SmackDown, and I just realized that too. He's listing his great
what a
Raw.
bastard.
He's listing his great Raw accomplishments, and one of them is a SmackDown moment. Rock says Vince is taking Rock away from all of this. He's taking him away from something that actually happened on SmackDown where he's going. Oh, but okay.
Yeah,
He says McMahon didn't make Hogan or The Rock. I think he actually says McMahon doesn't make The Rock because Hogan kind of brings that up later, and he's like, not only did McMahon not make The Rock, but he also didn't make Hogan. So I think he said he didn't make The Rock. It was the people who made The Rock. not Hogan. For some reason, he left. He does say McMahon didn't make Hogan a Rock, but he says it was the people that made the Rock, and for some reason he doesn't say Hogan. Then he brings up that the Penn State fans have a certain chant that they love to chant. We are Penn State. And so he mentions that chant. And he says today the fans are going to chant something else. They're going to chant on this side. They're going to chant "You are," and on that side they're going to chant "An asshole." And he gets the crowd to start chanting it. And we're going to hear this chant all throughout the night. You are an asshole. And so the crowd starts chanting, and McMahon just leaves in disgust. And Rock ends the segment by doing the if you smell what the Rock is cooking, obviously. This was a very entertaining segment. One of the better segments of the night. Your thoughts on Rock and McMahon here? Rock's number one overall pick, too. Let's not forget that.
Well, looking back on it, it's a very wasted pick, considering The Rock doesn't even make it to Backlash, I think.
He does not. And he also doesn't even remember his great Raw moments. He lists the SmackDown moment, his great Raw moment.
You know, the next time we see The Rock, well, one of the next times we see The Rock is when he's on Raw with Vince talking shit about Austin. And then he comes back. Doesn't he come back on Raw?
That was his comeback when he came back early. He was supposed to come back in like July, and he came back that early because he wanted to say Austin can take his ball and go home. But then he goes back to SmackDown. Yeah. But then he becomes like undisputed champ for for a month he's on both shows.
Yeah, and then he comes back, then he's on SmackDown again, and then he goes to Raw.
Yeah.
Because he beats Hogan, and that makes Vince happy. So he's like, go to Raw. Beat Austin.
Now we see Ric Flair walking backstage as he's obviously walking to come to the podium to make his first pick. He smiles. Ric Flair smiles as he's walking. So Flair's got something up his sleeve. And now we see Ric Flair in the at the podium with the first pick, and he says, despite his personal and now you did it a little early there.
Eventually we have 20 picks, eventually I'll get it right.
He says, despite his personal disdain for this person, he is still making him his first pick. Cue. And with the first pick for Raw, Ric Flair selects The Undertaker. And that's when they cut to Undertaker. He is pissed off. I think he throws his chair or something. First off, they
the iconic one.
Yeah, first off, they cut to him, and he's got he's got shades on. He pulls the shades down like this and has the "Are you kidding me?" look on his. So Flair picks Undertaker as his first pick, and remember on the last show, he was telling him to pick him, but clearly that was just mind games. And Ric Flair said, "Okay, well, bet." And now we go to Mr. McMahon's war room. He's upset.
Mel Kiper's pissed.
Mel Kiper says that's why Raw's been in the last place for all these years. How dare you take Undertaker when Trent Dilfer is And then
Scotty Tuhati was right there.
And then they cut to Arn Anderson, and he goes, "Who in the hell is Mel Kiper anyway?"
Yeah, he takes out his gun. Takes out his clock. Arn
Anderson says, "My mailman knows more about pro wrestling."
That's who he was on the phone with. He was on the phone with his mailman. The mailman said, "Draft Undertaker." So reckless.
So Mr. McMahon is upset about Flair's pick, and Kurt Angle comes barging into the ring. Into the war room, and McMahon's like, "I can't believe it." He's like, "Yeah, I can't believe it either. You didn't take me as a first pick. Yeah, you didn't pick me for the first pick. My feelings are hurt now, Mr. McMahon." And McMahon's excuse for this is said that he threw Flair a swerve, and now Flair threw it right back. And that's when Undertaker came barging in, yelling at Mr. McMahon, saying that McMahon said Flair wouldn't pick him. And McMahon says, "You're right, I did say that, but I have no clue what's in Flair's head right now." And but he does say that what's in Flair's head? He does say that Undertaker has his word, Mr. McMahon's word, that Mr. McMahon will make things right. And Undertaker ends the segment by saying, "This better be the first time that you keep your word, if you know what I mean." He walks away. They kind of zoom out to see both McMahon and Angle just looking at each other. Angle's obviously still upset about not being picked. Um, and that was a good segment. I enjoyed it, especially the whole stuff with Undertaker. Undertaker showing a lot of emotion there. So, thoughts on Ric Flair and that whole segment where he picks Oh, first of all, I did ask you about the McMahon and Rock
Yeah,
segment, right? Yeah. Okay, so
yeah.
thoughts on Ric Flair announcing that Undertaker is his first pick, and then the whole segment in
I
Mr.
love
McMahon's.
how professional he made it sound like.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked The Undertaker.
And thoughts on everything that transpired in Mr. McMahon's war room
Kurt
afterwards.
Kurt barging in saying, "I thought you were going to pick me first overall." Live video of Aaron Rodgers at draft day. I thought I was going to be picked first overall. What the fuck?
Yeah, Mr. McMahon took Alex Smith instead.
It kind of worked out for the 49ers.
It did. They ended up beating Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs again and again and again.
Well, it doesn't matter because Aaron Rodgers got the Super Bowl win.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
How about Undertaker showing a little emotion there?
Thus, the seeds are planted for their 2003 feud.
Got the buried alive. There you go. He didn't keep his word. Now he's going to get buried
Yeah,
alive.
yeah.
Now we have Edge and DDP taking on Christian and Booker T. So we are going back to our Road to Unforgiven story
Yeah.
here with Edge taking on Christian, even though in a tag match.
Feud that will never end.
Yeah. Um, Booker T wins it for him and Christian with a scissors kick on DDP. DDP takes the pin for the second time in this road too.
With
Not
the
a good
spinner
road.
Rooney.
Yeah, the most
Most
electrifying
electrifying.
move in sports entertainment. You're damn right.
Damn right.
So thoughts on? This was a decent tag match. I thought the crowd was fairly into it, so I give it about 2.5. Although it was a short match, don't expect any long matches on this show. Obviously, it's a weekly show. Back when weekly shows were exactly what they should be. You know, we're not going to have 30-minute matches on here. But anyway, thoughts on this tag match here? Booker T pinning DDP with the scissors kick.
It was a kind of a throw. This is such a throwaway show, like match wise, other than the main event.
I would say that
It was a fine match, but it's not
no, no,
something like it's
I do
kind of
agree.
house show esque.
I do agree it's a throwaway match, but I would say that handicap match was not necessarily a throwaway, even though it did end in DQ.
Yeah, but I said everything but the handicap match.
You said
It's
everything
very
but the
house show.
main. You said everything but the main event.
I meant the handicap. I meant the
That was a triple threat.
triple threat. I mean,
Yeah, the handicap I'm talking about. We'll get to the handicap match that I'm talking about. That happens later on, but
yeah.
those two were not. Those two matches were not throwaways. But yeah, this tag match was definitely a bit of a throwaway, but it was enjoyable. It was decent for what it was. Now we have Kurt Angle and Mr. McMahon in the war room, and like I said, we were going to see the 8x10 again. And Kurt Angle is looking at the back of his 8x10, reading off a list of his accomplishments when Mr. McMahon stops him because he needs to think of Flair's next move. He says if Flair is going to take the Undertaker, then he might take the NWO. Which Kurt Angle says, forget about the NWO and worry if Flair is going to take an Olympic gold medalist. And he says, Flair wants an Olympic gold medalist. He doesn't want the poison of the NWO. And that convinces Mr. McMahon as he's about to announce his second pick. Wink, wink. That convinces Mr. McMahon to pick Kurt Angle second overall for SmackDown. Third overall, technically. Third overall, but second to SmackDown. Angle hugs Mr. McMahon, but then says, "You still should have picked me first." That was an entertaining segment, especially the way Angle ended it. He's still pissed that he wasn't picked first. Now we go to Ric Flair's second pick, and Flair says, while he appreciates that Mr. McMahon thinks his ability to sign off, he appreciates what Mr. McMahon thinks of his ability to sign Austin, which, by the way, I don't even think Mr. McMahon has brought up Austin. He may have brought up Austin in that segment there with Angle. I guess I missed it, but I don't think he brought up Austin at any point in the show yet. Angle says, he said ability to, hold on now. I just screwed up. Hold on. Where the hell am I? Okay, yeah, his ability to sign Austin. Flair will do whatever it takes to sign Austin. And then he's about to announce the second Raw pick. Wink, wink. And he announces that his second Raw pick is the second, third, and fourth pick, essentially, because he takes the NWO. And they cut to the locker room, and it's like the cameraman's looking for the NWO. They're not there. And they essentially explain that later, where like Jerry Lawler essentially says, well, the NWO, they don't even care about being in the same locker room as everybody. So it made sense towards their character, but it was so funny how they cut to the locker room and you just see everybody. And it's like they're not panning to anybody specifically because NWO's not even there. And once again, they back to McMahon's war room with Kurt Angle there as well. And Mr. McMahon is pissed. And he says that Angle said they wouldn't sign the NWO, or he wouldn't sign the NWO. And now, because he is all pissed about this, he says he will sign Stone Cold Steve Austin. Angle says that McMahon needs to throw Ric Flair off his game. And now he mentions to Mr. McMahon a guy who has been gone for the last couple of months. He's been out of action for a long time. He's ready to come back, and Angle himself knows that Ric Flair has been talking to this gentleman. I use that term loosely, as you will see in a minute why. And Angle then whispers a name into Mr. McMahon's ear, and after he does that, well, wink, wink, Mr. McMahon announces that his third pick to go to SmackDown is Chris Benoit.
Ooh.
A very weird third pick, if I'm being honest. There's so many guys on this roster. I know a lot of big names have been taken already, but for Benoit to be the third pick, like, that's crazy. Especially when Brock Lesnar is still on the board. But Brock will be coming.
And Hulk Hogan.
Oh, yeah, Hogan's still on the board. That's right. Yeah, that's, wow. No, you're right. Yeah. Wow.
It's a bit of a reach there by SmackDown there.
A huge reach. Now we have NWO and Ric Flair in their war room. Or, excuse me, Ric Flair in his war room with the NWO. And technically, I guess it is in the NWO's war room now because they were drafted to Raw. So, yeah.
It's not effective. It's not in effect yet, though.
Yeah. X Pac. Oh yeah, that's true. It does go into effect on next week's Raw. So we actually are going to be reviewing that SmackDown next, and that will still be a pre-brand extension show. Kind of weird, but okay. X Pac is saying to Flair that Flair thinks he has everything figured out. He thinks he's so smart, but he can't tell the NWO what to do. X Pac says Mr. McMahon is the guy that brought him that brought us here, and he's the only guy that can tell us what to do. He's the guy that we work for. Ric Flair essentially says that the NWO now works for him and that they will listen to him. And Nass pretty much reiterates what X Pac says, saying, "We're not going to work for you. We work for Mr. McMahon." And then Arn Anderson comes in and says, "Hey, you're up. We got to go make a pick." And that's when Scott Hall says, you're not going to blow off the NWO. You're dealing with this right now." And wink, wink, Ric Flair, before, wink, wink. Ric Flair announces that his third pick is a guy that the NWO is going to have to deal with a lot, and that is Kane. And the NWO is very upset about this pick, and they walk away out of the locker room, or out of the war room, I should say. Uh, both the third picks are reaches, to say the least. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've trouble for the sound. Yeah, uh, just a bit. Kane and Benoit reaches.
All right, we have a lot that we've gone over there because there was segment by segment there. So thoughts on Angle in the war room where he reads off his 8x10, the list of accomplishments, and that ends with Angle being picked second, and then you have Flair making his second pick when he picks the NWO. Then they cut back to McMahon and Angle in the war room. McMahon pissed about the NWO segment. NWO signing,
Uh,
says he'll sign Austin, and then he announces Benoit. And then the segment with Flair in the NWO where Flair takes Kane. Thoughts
it's
on?
it's look, it's very entertaining. Look, Kurt's desperate to get drafted by Vince because he wants to stay with his puck buddy.
Yes.
The NWO doesn't trust Flair, nor should they. I mean, they've had bad experiences with him in WCW. So
Right.
the Kane and Benoit picks are a little surprising. The
Yeah.
Benoit's a little less surprising. The Kane is kind of more surprising because Kane was kind of floundering at this point. Benoit, you could say he was doing stuff before he got hurt, so he's kind of up and coming at this point.
I will say I do understand like this they're doing for
It makes him
storyline,
look good. It makes Benoit look good.
but they're also doing it for storyline reasons because
Yeah,
like Kane, this is Ric Flair's way of combating the fact that he just took NWO. Now he's taking the guy that NWO's got has to go up against in Kane, and essentially I not necessarily storyline reasons for the Benoit pick, but okay. I did enjoy the McMahon or Angle segment because the hilarious thing where Angle hugs him and is so excited he's been picked, but then he just immediately turns on him and says, "You still should have picked me first." Flair, when he announced the second pick, that wasn't really that much of a segment. Just it's a big shock though that he announces NWO, and the whole thing with they cut to the locker room and NWO's not there. That was perfect. That's just telling the story of the characters that the NWO are. And again, the McMahon and Angle thing was okay. The next one where he announces Benoit, that was okay. Not much to really say about
yeah.
that. NWO and Flair, that was a really entertaining segment, especially at the end where, Ric Flair's like, I'm taking the guy that you guys are going to have to deal with now. And that sadly in reality that just did not last long. I don't know. I guess Kane got hurt. Did he legitimately get hurt? Spoiler alert: the storyline reason as to why he was no longer here. We're actually going to get into that real soon, but um, NWO jumps him. X-Pac takes his mask, and we don't see him again until the Un-Americans are running around Raw.
Yeah.
I would guess that obviously they did not have plans that the NWO was going to fade as quickly as it did. So
No.
Kane's return plans had to be that he was going to come after NWO. I would think,
Yeah.
even if it would take as long as it did. I mean, he came back during the summer. Now we have a damn dream match right here. Trish Stratus taking on
Boo.
Ivory, and my gosh, you are banned for that. No disrespecting Trish Stratus or Ivory. Oh shit.
Oh, actually banned.
Trish Stratus taking on Ivory. They both look absolutely
Meh.
amazing. And that's it. You're gone. Uh, this was a decent match. I give about two stars. Trish wins with the Stratus faction, and again, they just both look absolutely amazing. Thoughts on Trish Stratus versus Ivory, the dream match that it was.
Yeah. Okay, match. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Um,
Oh
now they
god.
now they cut to the draft room. This would be essentially the locker room. This is not the war room. This is just the draft room. And essentially, it's all everybody's buzzing. They're all talking to each other, like wondering what the heck's going to happen next. And that is when Mr. McMahon comes out, and the crowd is chanting, "You are an asshole! You are an asshole!" And Mr. McMahon was about to walk off. He stops, and Mr. McMahon announces that his fourth pick is the legend, the icon, the GOAT, Hulk Hogan. How in the fuck was Chris Benoit, and Kane for that matter, taken before Hulk Hogan? But
Hogan had bad combines.
oh
He
boy,
couldn't run.
man.
He didn't run the 40 as quick as Benoit did.
And why not get the ESPN thing to go up again? Because they immediately cut to Ric Flair. Or I should say, Flair immediately comes out after that. And he announces his fourth pick is Rob Van Dam. And
Sorry.
you did it two
He keeps
times.
on going. He keeps on going.
You
No,
already
these
did.
draft picks are just these draft picks are just flying in.
So now we cut to Angle and Mr. McMahon in Mr. McMahon's war room, and McMahon immediately says, "Damn!" And Angle's like, "What's wrong? You're on a roll." McMahon says, "Yeah, but so is Flair, and I wanted RVD." And Kurt Angle's like, "You wanted RVD, but you're not even that big a fan of him." And McMahon says, "Yeah, I'm not a big a fan of him, but I want that damn IC title on SmackDown, the Intercontinental title." Angle says he knows how he can get the Intercontinental title for Mr. McMahon. He says just sanction a match between Kurt Angle and RVD, and Kurt Angle will bring the IC title back to SmackDown. Mr. McMahon agrees. Angle walks off, and Mr. McMahon just talking to himself is like, "Well, that's why he was the number two pick." Maybe I
Yep.
should have. Maybe I should have taken him number one. That was funny. Now we have Hogan and Rock backstage. They immediately dap each other up. At Rock asks Hogan how you feeling. Hogan says he's good. He says he was thinking about what Rock said earlier on out there. He says that while it is true that Rock was made by the people also made Hulk Hogan. And Hogan brought up the attack that ended SmackDown last week, or a couple days ago, really, where they power bombed The Rock through an announce table and then just beat the hell out of Hulk Hogan, and he said that since we've both been drafted to SmackDown, this is, and NWO's going to Raw. This is essentially the last chance we have at taking them down. So why not make our last Raw moment a memorable one? Rock agrees, and they essentially just hype each other up by saying each other's catchphrase. Rock's like, "What's the NWO gonna do when Rock and Hogan run wild on you? Shit like that." And Hogan did like I forgot. I guess I forgot, he did. Rock has so many damn catchphrases. Hogan
Yeah.
used one of them, but that was an entertaining.
He go, Rock's like, I don't want my daughter sleep dating a
Uh,
like no.
yeah, that was a pretty entertaining segment there. But now we have Mr. McMahon come out, and he's about to make his fifth pick. And Mr. McMahon picks the tag team champions, Billy and Chuck. And they cut to the draft room where Billy, Chuck, Rico, and Tro are all celebrating this announcement. And Rico says that everybody needs a new makeover now, that they're all headed to SmackDown. Billy, Chuck, Rico, and Tro all headed to SmackDown.
Oh hell yeah.
So let's see, where are we going here? We got Okay, a lot of stuff to ask you about. First off, I'll give my thoughts on some of this. The draft room segment. While it was in just a quick little segment, I like it because everybody's obviously wondering about what
Yeah.
show they're going to be on, so that's why you have everybody talking and all that. Uh, I like that for McMahon's fourth pick, the "You are an asshole" chant. He played off that. He almost walked off, and then he just announced Hogan. Flair's fourth pick was just he announces he just announces RVD. Not really a big segment or anything there. Not much to talk about. Angle and McMahon in the war room. McMahon is all pissed off, and it turns out he's only pissed off because he wants the IC title, not because he lost out on Rob Van Dam. And that was a good segment, and it had a hilarious ending where Mr. McMahon's like, maybe I should have made him the number one overall pick, because obviously Angle's like, well, I'm gonna go get you the IC title. And Hogan and Rock backstage was an okay segment, nothing too special. And then McMahon's fifth pick, uh, Billy, Chuck, Rico, and Tro celebrating in the draft room with Rico telling everybody, "Oh, now we all need a makeover." That was entertaining. But thoughts on all that from the draft room where everybody's talking? McMahon's fourth pick, Flair's fourth pick. There's not really much to say about Flair's fourth pick. He just announced his Van Dam. But Angle and
Yeah.
McMahon in the war room that leads to the
That
IC
was
title
good.
match, and then Hogan and
It
Rock
shows how much
backstage.
of a kiss ass Kurt is.
Yeah, and then yes, definitely, and then McMahon's fifth pick. All that. Your thoughts on all that?
They were good. Not too much to really deep dive into it, other than
Yeah,
it's cool to see The Rock and Hogan like interact still.
yeah.
So
But what
much.
about Angle getting the Intercontinental title shot? That was a good segment.
Yeah, it was a shows that Kurt is willing to do anything to make Vince happy.
Absolutely. And you are ignoring a very memorable Raw moment here where you make your WWE debut.
Yep, my one and only.
You're celebrating backstage with Billy, Chuck, and Rico. And then
Yep,
Rico takes you to get a makeover.
yep. And then I turn into a Samoan, and I reappear later on here.
And now we have the NWO walking backstage as they're just setting up the 3-on-2 handicap matches, which is what we get to right after that. 3-on-2 handicap, Hulk Hogan and The Rock taking on Hall, X-Pac, and Nash of the NWO. And this was, even though it was somewhat quick, it ends with a run-in disqualification. This was a fun match. Crowd was into it. Crowd was obviously behind Hogan and Rock, and obviously when you got opponents like the NWO, it's going to be a fun match. I give it 4 stars, and like I said, it ends with Kane running in, attacking the NWO, and obviously Rock and Hogan then helping Kane out, and then Lillian Garcia announces that by disqualification, your winners are the NWO. And then Lillian says something that surprises everybody. Right after this, she says, "For life." She rips her shirt off, and it reveals
Oh
that
my.
under it she has an NWO shirt of her own. And
Oh, son of a
she
bitch.
She gets into the ring, jumps Rock, Hogan, and Kane by herself. She throws up the NWO sign, and all 5 members of the NWO celebrate alongside Lillian Garcia, who now essentially was also Ric Flair's second overall pick because Lillian had been with the NWO this whole time. So once Flair announced the NWO, he was also announcing Lillian Garcia being drafted to Raw. So how about that? Lillian Garcia takes out Kane, Rock, and Hogan, but obviously that did not happen. So thoughts on this handicap match 3-on-2?
It was a great house show match.
It was a fun match. I'll say that. Yeah,
Oh
that's it.
dear God.
That's all you got to say.
No, I
Just
mean it was a fun match. It was we're getting more Hogan Rock
yeah,
teaming up. First time we get to see the three man NWO.
yeah, and
Won't be the last
obviously,
time.
yeah, and obviously, they just set up the new feud for the NWO with where Flair announced Kane as the pick, and he said this is gonna be the guy you're gonna have to deal with. Well, he has to deal with him immediately. He does the run in there. Uh, McMahon and Flair in in Ric Flair's war room. Mr. McMahon barges in and says Flair stole the Undertaker from and NWO from Vince, and for all Vince knows, Flair just sent Kane down there to get the DQ for Hogan and Rock. Screw Hogan and Rock, his two SmackDown guys, out of a match. Flair says he doesn't have to explain anything to Mr. McMahon anymore. We're 50-50. And the Raw brand is going to ride on without Mr. McMahon. And that is when Ric Flair announces his 5th pick.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying not to
Yeah,
make too much public my feelings on what's occurring right now.
yeah, no spoilers, no spoilers.
Yeah, don't worry.
And stay there.
Late John.
Yeah, be on the lookout during this segment because the picks are gonna fly here. But
Yeah.
Flair announces that Booker T is his 5th pick, and because of that, Mr. McMahon announces who his 6th pick is. He says it is the man who defeated Booker T at WrestleMania, and that is Edge as his 6th pick. To which Ric Flair then announces his 6th pick. It is the Giant Big Show. And then,
No.
and then, well, Mr. McMahon says, since you're taking the Giant, I'm going to take a Giant of my own. The Giant Cheeks, as with the 7th pick, Mr. McMahon takes Rikishi, and that is when Ric Flair says, "Great, maybe we'll get to see him sit that big ass on your face again." And that is when Mr. McMahon shoves Ric Flair down and leaves, and Ric Flair's ready to get back up, but Arn Anderson is holding him back. That is the end of that segment. I thought this was a decent segment. I guess that the reason why they just started running down picks, they were probably running out of time there.
Yeah.
So They had to move the picks up. But in terms of the segment itself, Mr. McMahon coming barging in all pissed off like a lot of guys have done in these war rooms tonight. But I thought that was great, and the push at the end where Flair gets up and he's being held back by Arn Anderson, that was great too. Your thoughts on this segment where the picks were flying like crazy?
I thought it was good. It was a good way to get like the draft picks out of the way quickly.
Yeah,
So good effective way and to keep the Vince and Flair uh,
yeah,
arguments going.
yeah. Uh,
Think
I don't I don't know what we were doing here because it looks like we're building up a tag title match here for Backlash, but meanwhile one of these tag teams are about to get split up. So I don't know. This match made no sense whatsoever because of the way it went. It looks like they're building something here, but similar to the Road to Unforgiven, we don't know who the tag champs are gonna face here. Maybe they're gonna face the Hardys. Maybe they're gonna face what was it for Unforgiven 01? Uncle Cracker. What's that? Oh, X Factor. Maybe they're gonna face X Factor. Yeah, who knows? Well,
make some noise.
Jeff Hardy takes on Billy, and during this match, at one point, Matt Hardy takes out Chuck and is like kicking him in the corner in the near the barricade and shit. And then they cut over to Lita, who's getting on the apron, and with Rico standing right there, she hits a hurricanrana on Rico. Then she gets up and slaps the ever living shit out of Tro, and Jeff Hardy Jeff Hardy gets the victory with a victory roll, and yeah, literally all this for nothing because the Hardy Boys are about to get split up.
Yeah, this is pointless.
Yeah, it is. It honestly is. This would be the match itself was 1 star. Even if you were building something up here, I mean, if you were building something up, everything that happened with the attacks on the outside would have been great. But the match itself was quick, not much to talk about, and just the match ended up being there was no reason to do this. This is probably the one thing that I would have a problem with on this show, and also Arn Anderson being on the phone too. Like he totally no sells Flair after Flair asked him what he say. We never knew who he was on the phone with. There was literally no reason to do all that. But speaking of tag teams breaking up, we cut to Oh well. First, your thoughts on Jeff Hardy versus Billy?
Throwaway match.
It was a throwaway match, and it seemed like they were building something up, and they really weren't. But how about
No,
you? You getting the slap in your WWE debut?
I took it like a champ. I'm just that damn good.
I really want to know if there's some random person that's just gonna come in on this video. They're like not a wrestling fan. They're like, this guy was a wrestler. He appeared on WWE television. Like they're really gonna
Yep,
believe.
I'm just that damn good.
Speaking of tag teams being broken up, we cut to Ric Flair's War Room,
Yep.
and he announces his 7th pick.
Hold on. There we go.
And with his 7th pick, Ric Flair says he is going to take the greatest tag team of all time. So he's obviously got to draft one of them first because this ain't an NWO situation or a Billy and Chuck
I
situation.
was about to say Billy Chuck.
Yeah, Billy and Chuck were the champs, so you draft them, you get them both. Flair ends up picking Bubba Ray Dudley with his 7th pick. We immediately cut to Mr. McMahon's war room where he says, okay, you're going to take the greatest, one of the most accomplished tag teams of all time, but guess what? You only took one of them. You're not going to get the other guy because with the 8th pick, I am taking Devon Dudley. And a really cool moment after this because the Dudleys, they cut to the draft room. The Dudleys embrace each other for one final time. Everybody in the room can't believe what's going on. Uh, Again, when certain segments of this draft, and obviously you can't expect every draft pick to have like some cool little moment, but there really legitimately isn't much to talk about here except for the fact that the Dudleys got split up. Because other than that,
Yeah.
these are literally just picks getting announced. I'll say I'm okay with one tag team being split. So like if this was the only thing they did in terms of splitting tag teams, that's fine. But in the end, they literally gutted essentially the attitude. I get like we're transitioning, we're a couple of months away from the Ruthless Aggression era beginning. We're in that time period, that post attitude, pre Ruthless Aggression era. But just because the attitude era is ending doesn't mean you gotta take the attitude era tag teams and just completely gut them on all on one night pretty much. APA split up, the Dudley split up, the Hardys split up. To split up the Dudleys here, you got the embrace at the end. This was a cool moment, but splitting up all the tag teams and all of a sudden, freaking Maven and Al Snow are facing Billy and Chuck at the freaking the pay per view that we are leading up to. I mean, Billy and Chuck was such a great tag team, and it's a shame. Like right here, all the guys that they can work with, and I get that they've technically pretty much worked with all of them at this point because they had that big tag match where it's like all the tag teams at WrestleMania, but still, like you just completely gutted the tag division and screwed Billy and Chuck.
Yeah.
It's like now they're facing freaking Maven and Al Snow at the paper. It's like, and like Chris Jericho said, even Maven has a match. Well, Maven has a match because the tag teams, there's no tag teams left for Billy and Chuck to
Yep.
face. That's why. But thoughts on the Dudleys splitting up here, and maybe give your thoughts on the whole Attitude Era tag teams pretty much getting split up all in one night.
The the Dudleys being split up was fine. I mean,
Hmm.
you can sit there like the anger, like God damn it, they're
Yeah,
uh they're
yeah,
because they're shocked because
right.
they would have thought they'd see the same, and obviously they actually kind of work out pretty fine separately. Bubba does the hardcore division, and Devon does Reverend Devon, so
Yes, and
it's not
Reverend
it's not it's
Devon.
not, it's not a Hardy or a APA situation
Hmm.
where only one of the teammates really does anything separate. They
Yeah,
pretty much they work out pretty fine.
and Reverend Devon was a great character.
Yeah.
And we will get some Reverend Devon, right, during the build up to this pay per view, right? At least a little bit.
No, I
No?
don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe. Maybe I don't know.
I don't want to spoil
Well,
anything. I was gonna say, but yeah, we may see some Reverend Devon in my next road to, but that's a long way.
ooh,
That's not even. Again, we're not announcing anything, so that's not even official yet. Next up, we have European title Rikishi taking on William Regal, challenging William Regal. And as Rikishi is waiting in the ring, William Regal's coming down, but all of a sudden the camera pans to the ring, and all of a sudden this huge monster of a man is coming into the ring, clotheslines Rikishi. It turns out it's Brock Lesnar once again. This is the first time we see Brock Lesnar, and he's not interfering in a former or in a tag team partners taking each other on type match. But he essentially clotheslines Rikishi. He F5s him, and Paul Heyman comes in the ring, puts his holds his hand up like he just won a match. Hold Brock's hands up as if Brock just won a match. Uh, this was good. Again, Brock Lesnar is just wreaking havoc all over the roster. So this was a great moment. Your thoughts on Brock taking out Rikishi? And also this was the first time like he's taken out Maven, he's taken out Spike Dudley, he's taken out Hurricane, he's taken out Mighty Molly. This is the first time he actually takes out somebody who's pretty big, like
yeah.
can handle his own against a guy like Brock Lesnar, and he picks him up. This is the first time you see the true strength of Brock Lesnar, where he picks up a guy like Rikishi and F5s him. But your thoughts on this segment here?
I thought it was good because yeah, no, this isn't like this isn't Hurricane or Molly or Maven.
Yeah,
This is a big boy,
right.
and not a lot of
Um,
people are able to pick up Rikishi so
yeah,
easily like he was.
and I say with these reviews, while the boot of the night, the boot of the week, the smack of the night, all that stuff they do. It's not exactly important. I do like to cover them in these reviews, these weekly show reviews. Remember, we're doing a Raw here, and this episode actually it probably is on Netflix. I didn't want even check. I watched. It's a special episode, so it probably is on Netflix. But I watched on the recording, and none of those were showed. This guy made sure to like cut out all the commercials, so there was none of the smack of the night or anything like that. And one of the frustrating parts for me too, and this is the second time that this happened. This first Raw that we did on this road to, this happened as well, where literally the first commercial in the on of the show was a Buffy commercial for both the first
Oh,
Raw
yes.
and this Raw episode as well. But the person who recorded it cut out the commercial. Like the commercial, the first episode, the Buffy commercial kind of goes a little bit and then it just cuts. This time it starts and just immediately cuts. So yeah, whoever recorded it, like screw you for cutting out the Buffy
You're
commercials.
banned.
Yeah, and also screw you for cutting out the slam of the week and the all those
Yeah.
stacker two.
Get
Uh,
the slam back in.
yeah, we want to cover those here, but I can't do them because I don't know what they were. But
Road to slam of the week.
but one thing we do get is a live shot of WWE New York. This is like going
No.
back to the Unforgiven, the Road to Unforgiven here.
No.
And by the way, there was
They still have the SummerSlam 01 pay per view poster
I
up.
was just about to say there's no poster up at this point.
Yeah, no, this is we've lost a lot of money here, folks. We don't know what the fuck to do. We're
And
gonna rename it the World by the end of the year.
and it is Jazz who is there in the with the crowd in the world in WWE New York, and Jr. asked Jazz about the draft, and she says she's just waiting to see where divas like Trish and Lita end up, so she can beat down they mess up their pretty little faces. To which I say, for Jazz saying that about Trish Stratus, she needs to be jumped and kicked out of the WWE. But she then says, as the women's champ, she'd be the only bitch appearing on both shows.
As it turns out, not true. As it turns out, they don't give a shit about the divas on SmackDown.
uh, thoughts on Jazz's promo here. I thought it was pretty good. It was perfect towards Jazz's promo. I mean, her character. But your thoughts on Jazz here at the World?
I thought it was good.
Yeah,
It's the best they have for her, I guess.
yeah. Now our last pick was Ric Flair. No, wasn't it? It was Flair. Who did Flair take again? Oh no. Oh no, yeah. Our last pick was McMahon, and McMahon took Devon. That's right. So now Mr. McMahon comes out, and JR, rightfully so, is like, he's not on the clock. What's he doing? And that is when Mr. McMahon says that his next pick will be the guy that you all just saw destroy Rikishi in the ring. His next pick is Brock Lesnar. And that is when, and there's a reason why I didn't set it up. See, I didn't set it up for you for a reason. Because Ric Flair comes out and says, it's not your pick, Vince. And McMahon is like, that's fine. That's fine. You can take the next two draft picks. To which Jerry Law is like, yeah, they do that in the NFL all the time. And I'm sitting there like, if they do that in the NFL all the time, then how come we were not able to be like, how come we weren't able to be like, okay, we're going to take Caleb Williams first overall, but you know what? We're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. second overall. If they do that in the NFL all the time, how come we weren't able to do that the draft last year?
Yeah,
Whoever picked second the last year, I forgot who it was. Oh yeah, Washington, obviously. Well, Washington could have got 2 picks in a row after that.
Yeah.
Why couldn't that happen? But Flair essentially declines this this offer here by Mr. McMahon to take 2 straight picks, and for the 8th pick for Ric Flair. I like that, a little screwed up on the shout out, rest in peace, DJ Screw. Got that a little screwed up. Nothing wrong with that. But that's gonna be on the next three in the morning mixtape, I guess. Ric Flair says that his 8th pick will be Brock Lesnar. And Mr. McMahon says, well, okay, if you're going to take the big ass Brock Lesnar with his potential, I'm going to take potential as well. And Tro, you're muted. We need that ESPN.
Hold on.
Okay. I love it. I love it. Chopped up, screwed up. Rest in peace, DJ Screw. But Mr. McMahon,
Sounds so creepy.
hey, that's how they do it in Screwston, baby. That's how they do it in Screwston. Mr. McMahon takes Mark Henry as his 9th pick. And we're going to do a little 3 in the morning ESPN style again, as Ric Flair is about to announce his 9th pick.
Yeah,
Oh, no, come on now. No, we don't do that around here. No. Ric Flair's 9th pick will be William Regal, to which they cut to Regal, and he is pissed. He's like, I wanted to go with Mr. McMahon. We talked about how Benoit was 3rd and how crazy, how much of a reach that was, how a reach it was that Kane got picked. This was, even as the final pick, it technically isn't the final pick because, on WWE.com they did the lottery, which was picks as well. Mr. McMahon takes his 10th pick, 10th and final pick. Got that screwed up. Okay. And if the 10th pick for Mr. McMahon were to come onto this show, what would be the first thing he said on our show? What would be the first thing he would say?
Trying to remember who the 10th pick was.
Big YouTuber.
Hey guys, Maven here.
There you go.
I was just drafted 10th overall. Here's what my thoughts were. I thought I should have been number 1, motherfucker.
The biggest reach of this draft. Like, who the hell's still on the board? I mean, both the Hardys are still on the board.
So wait, we don't have any more draft picks, right?
No. Well, there's one. There's
Damn
one left. There's one left. Okay, so Maven, they cut to Maven and he looks shocked. I mean, can you blame him for being shocked? He actually got picked.
Yeah.
And that is when they cut back to the podium, and Ric Flair is about to announce his 10th and final pick. Yeah. SUC for life. And his 10th pick is Lita.
You don't even know that.
What? No, what?
That wasn't the NFL draft sound.
I don't know what that was, but
that was the NHL draft sound.
Oh, okay.
On ESPN.
McMahon says that Flair only took a woman as his 10th pick because he's essentially a chauvinist pig. He used a different word. I don't know how to even pronounce the word or whatever, but he essentially calls him a chauvinist pig. And he says McMahon has no doubt that Flair will turn Raw into a cesspool. And he says that he says that Austin is coming to SmackDown. And he says that this week on SmackDown, his guys are going to lay the SmackDown on Flair's Raw guys. And Flair essentially just doesn't give a shit. He just gets the crowd to start chanting, "You are an asshole." one final time on Mr. McMahon. I really enjoyed this segment, especially you have Mr. McMahon being the heel, trying to sneak in a pick because he saw what Brock did and he was about to take Brock Lesnar. Maven getting picked 10th overall was definitely a reach and for no apparent reason. There's no storyline reason like there was with Kane. Kane was a reach, but it's understandable. It was for storyline reasons. Why the hell Maven was picked 10th and why the hell Benoit was picked third will make no sense to me whatsoever. But the segment itself was good. Again, McMahon and Flair going back and forth, and Flair getting the crowd to chant, "You are an asshole." That was all great. Your thoughts on the final segment, draft wise, here with the final picks?
I thought it was fine. Good way to end the draft
Yep.
on a high note
Yep.
ish.
And now we have the Intercontinental title. Remember, Kurt Angle's trying to bring the Intercontinental title back over to SmackDown. And obviously, we know that doesn't happen because anybody who watches 2002 WWE, we know the IC title was on Raw after the brand split. But this match just ends in a disqualification. Kurt Angle gets disqualified. And after he gets disqualified, he puts RVD into an ankle lock. Edge comes out, is about to spear Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle leaps over him, and Edge misses the spear. Angle ends up getting a little bit of an advantage. He goes for an Angle slam. Edge counters that. He hits the spear then on Angle and starts pounding away at Angle before the refs are able to pull them apart. Angle gets carried away as Edge stands in the ring, victorious essentially, as he got Angle, and this is obviously building towards Edge and Kurt Angle at Backlash. And boy, this match has already been built up much better than. Like I said, this started with a tag team match where Edge got a victory over Kurt Angle, very similar to RVD and Jericho for our last Road to. With just this segment alone, it's already been built up way better than Jericho and RVD for Unforgiven 01 has been. Thoughts on? Oh, go ahead.
What? No, I was giving
On
my thoughts.
yeah,
So it was a quick and easy
yeah,
match. Helps build Kurt and Edge.
yeah. And now we have exactly what we were all here for. Exactly what everybody came to see as they cut backstage and all you see is Stephanie McMahon in all of her glory. Oh my goodness. Okay, that's it. You're gone. Uh, yeah, Stephanie McMahon just looking amazing. And Michael Cole comes up and interviews her about the match and how potentially this could be the last time we ever see Stephanie McMahon. She essentially just says she isn't going anywhere, and tonight she will be the undisputed champion, something that absolutely should happen. Um, Good, decent little interview segment just to get us ready for the main event here, and that is what we are going to. And this is your main event, sponsored by Screwed Up Records and Tapes. Head down to Houston, Texas, to get some screwed up tapes, screw tapes, if you want. As like Tro was getting down with the screw earlier, slowing up that ESPN sound there. So that's what your main event is sponsored by. Screwed Up Records and Tapes, the
Screw.
old screw shop for DJ Screw. And this is the match of the night, in my opinion. This triple threat was really good. You had Stephanie McMahon and Chris Jericho trying to work together. You have Jericho immediately trying to pin Stephanie when Triple H is out of the ring. Triple H immediately pulls Jericho out of the ring to break that up. At one point, it looked like Stephanie and Jericho were turning on each other. But anyway, in the end, one of the most tragic moments in WWE history happens. Triple H essentially pedigrees Stephanie, gets the pinfall victory, and then in one of the saddest moments in WWE history, they bring out the damn security, and Stephanie, just trying to get away, gets carried off by security. She's holding on to the ring. She's holding on to like the post when she's outside the ring, and it's just a sad moment. Triple H, the jerk that he is, gets on the mic and starts a "na na na, hey hey, goodbye" chant.
No,
Tell
no, 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 no. Hey, 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 goodbye.
um again, this is just great heel work from Stephanie, and maybe this is where Chris Jericho, came up with the idea of how he was going to leave in 2005, because very similar fashion. But
Yeah.
a little heat on, or Stephanie gets her comeuppance here, which should not have happened. That's just horrible. But for a heel, obviously, great little.
How long has she gone for? So it's got to be like at least a few weeks.
Yeah, well, I would think she comes back when she's announced as a SmackDown
Yeah,
GM. That would be
I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure.
July 15th.
Hmm,
No, not July 15th, because that's
that's Eric
Bischoff.
Bischoff.
So 15, 16 would be Tuesday, 17, 18th, July 18th.
Okay.
So, yeah, that would be the match of the night. My segment of the night would be the whole thing where Rock gets picked number one and he gets the fans to chant "You are an asshole"
You
at
are an asshole.
Mr. McMahon. So, your segment and match of the night for this show.
Match is the triple threat match.
I agree.
Segment is the Vince and Flair fighting in the war room.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah. Overall, out of 10, I do have, like I said, I did have a few small little criticisms on the show. Like, again, why was Jeff Hardy and Billy happening? The whole thing though with Arn Anderson phone, it's not that big a deal, but it's
Yeah.
like it made it seem like like who's he on the phone with? It made it seem like that was going to be like a big thing. It obviously wasn't, but
Who is it? Who is it?
yeah. Even with Jeff Hardy and Billy being a meaningless match because of what we know later on in the night when they go to the lottery, they split the Hardys up. Even with that, everything else that went on in the show was so entertaining. I give us a 10 out of 10. What do you give it?
I give this draft a grade of B plus, which is about an 8.
Okay, there you go. Um, so our next show, 26, 27, will be the March 28th, 2002
Ooh,
edition of SmackDown.
we're almost catching up to ourselves.
That is true. That is true. I don't know when that's going to be, if it's tomorrow or maybe Wednesday, but we will see. Um, but yeah, the SmackDown again. Remember, the draft does not go into effect until Raw, so everything that we just saw does not take effect on this next episode, the SmackDown. So you will still see all the Raw guys and all the SmackDown guys on this episode of SmackDown. And then we will get to the Raw where the brand
Across the
extension.
nation.
Yes, can't wait. Can't wait. The brand
You get
extension.
the drive, the money.
The brand extension takes effect, and then we will get to see the rest of the build up, the rest of the road to from
You
that
mean
episode.
the actual build up to the pay per view?
The rest of that road to, we will have the two theme songs that I grew up on. That when I first became a fan of WWE, the SmackDown theme song was that SmackDown theme song that
Hey,
is.
you, what do
Yeah,
you see? Something beautiful tonight.
yeah, horrible by Troll there, but okay.
I'm not Marilyn Manson, as you can tell.
Yeah, yeah. And then once we
Or the
get
underground.
And then, yeah, that Union Underground theme across the
Yeah,
nation will debut once we get to the brand extension. That was the Raw theme when I first started watching. Obviously, at this point, Tro was in preschool, so he didn't exactly grow up on those theme songs. At least not beautiful.
obviously at this time, Caleb Williams is just a twinkle in his father's eye.
Yes, and Caleb Williams is going to win a few Super Bowls in the next couple of years, but
Nope,
okay. No, yes, he will.
nope.
So you're again. This is where you made your WWE debut. You became a member of Billy, Chuck, and Rico with Billy, Chuck, Rico, and Tro. And then
Yeah,
Lita,
they called it BCRT.
there you go. And then Lita just slapped you dead in the face,
Yep, and I left.
took his ball, and went home.
Just like Matt Molson.
Yeah, you were the first. You walked out. Well, technically, Austin walked out the
I
first time
inspired Austin.
the night after Mania, but his real walkout, yours came first. You walked out after Lita because Lita was a little stiff with that slap. So you're like, oh no.
That doesn't work for me, brother.
So yeah, any final thoughts on the March 25th, 2005, 2002, excuse me,
Oh boy.
edition of Raw, the first ever draft?
Well, it's funny that we're doing the first ever draft because we're also doing the second ever draft.
Nope. Why don't you give us one final ESPN draft sound before we sign off here?
Uh, okay, hold on. You want ESPN sound?
I want it screwed. However, whatever it is, I want it screwed. Slow it down.
Okay, hold on. Let me get it. Okay, I got it.
Nope, 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 nope. You're banned. You're banned.
Come on, you set yourself up for that one.
Mm. Are we not going to get the ESPN draft thing?
Hold on.
There we go.
Nope, nope. It's not even. It has to be screwedy. Hold on.
Yes, it has to be screwed, not screwed. Screwed. There you go. And next, we've already done two shows. We have already did two shows tonight. Now we got a third one coming up. Right after we go off the air here, we're gonna come back live, and me and Tro are going to do an actual reaction to the 3 in the morning album for DJ Screw. We're gonna react to that up next. I don't think Tro wants to do that, but what was that?
No.
Thoughts on 3 in the morning though. Part two, not the first one.
I think 301's pretty good.
No love for Pimp the Pen. Pimp the Pen is what made Lil Kiki a star. Draped up and dripped out. Know what I'm talking
Ladies and
about.
gentlemen, Frank has lost his mind. He's speaking nonsense.
3 in the morning, getting the gat out the stash spot.
God.
Come on,
And look, just like that, we've been banned again.
for saying gat. I literally said gat in or Islander.
You know what? I'm gonna ban myself.
um, Tro keeps banning his own self now.
Yeah.
Well,
Remove self from stage.
all right, that's about it for tonight. Thank you to anybody who's watched. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. And we will see you either tomorrow or Wednesday when we cover the March 28th, 2002 edition of SmackDown. See you later.